Welcome to Pune's Placement Titans. It's a series where we dive into on campus opportunities at Pune's most exclusive colleges, helping you crack that dream company and stay prepared ahead of time. So, presenting Titan number one, Aastha Jajoo. I honestly don't know where to start, but I'll try to introduce her and give justice to her introduction. So, Aastha is currently a final year student at COEP, which for the folks in Pune, it's the number one college, and her journey has been nothing short of consistent excellence. So in her 10th grade she was a school topper with 97.8 percentage, and she topped that up with again school topper again 96.6% in her 12th CBSE board. And for the cherry on top, she scored 99 plus percentile in CET and also managed to get 99 plus percentile in JEE Mains, and she was eligible for JEE Advanced, and she also got a good rank over there. So she's taken part in numerous hackathons. She has already secured a PPO at Deutsche Bank after interning there, and she has also cleared the initial screening round. She had cleared it for DE Shaw. Unfortunately, she couldn't convert that into an offer, but even going to the last round is a big thing. Okay, so we're here to unpack her journey today and understand how you can also build a profile like her and how you can stay consistent for so long, because I think that Astha must have been really consistent, because that is the only way to have such a consistent profile. And I'll have to be honest, this is probably one of the most idealistic profiles that I have seen. Like, I've been doing podcasts for a long time, but I haven't seen such consistent performance, be that 10th grade, 12th grade, college, internships within college, getting the job. So it's really good to have someone of that caliber with me today. So Astha, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And apart from this achievements part of things, on a human note, how would you define yourself, or how would you tell the world who Astha actually is?
Okay, so thank you so much for such a lovely introduction. And well, that was quite a lot about my academics. I won't get into that part of who I am. I am someone who loves dancing. I am trained in Kathak. I love playing table tennis, chess, badminton, and I love hanging out with my friends. I love to get to know new people. So that's me in general, apart from my academics.
Yeah. So I'd like to dive into your first and second year college journey. I think first year was pretty late. For you guys, I think it must have been normal, because for our batch it was very late. Our batch started in November. So how are things like in your first and second year, and when exactly did you get an idea about on-campus placements and the placement scenes in your college? Because it is very important to know the on-campus scene, because as people know, on-campus is definitely a bit easier than going off campus, for the simple fact that the
Right.
companies are directly coming to your college, and you have at least have the opportunity to take part in their OA rounds if you clear the initial screening. So yeah, that it would be lovely to know a bit about that, the initial journey.
Yeah. So my first year, I kept it more to look into different clubs that are there in college, make friends. I also shifted to hostels, so to accommodate myself there. First year was mainly about exploring college and trying to understand how it is different from school. So that was pretty much about it. In second year, like in first year, I also connected with my seniors and in the clubs that I was a part of. So those seniors, when I just entered second year, they were securing PPO internships. So that's when I connected with them and I tried to dwell into details about which companies actually come to college, how to apply, how to prepare. I gave much of my second year only to academics because it also had subjects like DSA and object oriented programming within the second year, and those were important. I started with lead code, etc., in second year only. So, second year was more about increasing my CGPA and getting to know how to prepare for third year. And mainly, I prepared for the internships, which is in the gap after second year and before third year.
Okay, so that sounds pretty good. Like, it's good to start DSA early, because a lot of people they don't treat college subjects with too much importance. But something that I've also understood is they have a lot of commonality with what is asked in the interview, specifically subjects like DBMS or DSA. They give you that base or sort of introduction to the subject, so it is also very important to get that understanding when it is being taught, rather than waiting for your placements. After second year, that I'll dive into.
Yes,
Oops,
right.
oops,
We
and all of
had
that. Yeah.
DBMS, OS, and computer networks in our third year. But
Okay.
I knew that as soon as I enter my fifth semester, we'll be having companies for internship. So I did not
Okay.
wait for college to teach us any of it. So in the gap between second year and third year, I started looking at the resources available online. For if I have to suggest my juniors for DSA, I'll say that you should definitely go for lead code interview of top 150 questions and Striver's SDE sheet. If you have time, you can also go for A to Z sheet. For DBMS, you can look at W3 schools for SQL queries, and for the basic fundamental concepts, you can have a look at Code Help, Love Bubber's placement series. Similarly, for OS, also you can go with Code Help, Love Bubber's series. And for computer networks, you can read the book Kuros and Ross. It's a wonderful book. And few companies ask for puzzles as well, like just
Yeah.
to check your problem solving approach. So for that, you can have a look at Geeks for Geeks puzzles. They're pretty good and a wide range. And like few companies like D-Shaw, banks generally don't ask system design, but D-Shaw, since it came for systems role, it did delve into system design. So for that, you can refer to Hello Interview. It's a website as well as a YouTube channel.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. I'll attach the links for that so folks can directly, click on those links and start with their prep. You mentioned CGPA, right? You're focused on maintaining CGPA. So I just have a simple question, and it's a question in a lot of people's mind. How important is CGPA? Because a lot of times people think it has no importance, but it ends up being the reason why you didn't get shortlisted for some ABC company.
Yeah,
So what is that
yeah.
importance, and any tip regarding how to maintain it?
So like different companies have different CGPA criterias. Deutsche Bank had 7 plus CGPA criteria. Most of them have 7.5 plus. There are few which have 8 plus. And there was the my CGPA at the end of my third semester was something around 8.4. And that time JP Morgan hackathon was organized
Yeah.
and their criteria was 8.5. And that's
Oh.
when it hit me that, oh shit, I'm not able to apply to this, so I need to improve my CGPA. And that's where I worked hard in the fourth semester to increase that to 8.6.
Yeah.
So it depends company to company.
Yeah, and it must be a tough pill to swallow because it's like you usually do give your best in like the exams, but when it's so marginally off by just 0.1%, it's not even a lot. It's not like
Yeah.
you didn't give the
Yeah.
effort, so it must feel bad. And what was the lesson you took from that? Like mainly maintaining CGPA, right? Because it's important to learn from such things. And was there any change in prep that you did that you would advise
Yeah,
juniors to
earlier I
follow?
used to just take earlier up till my third semester, it was like I'll maintain CGPA, I didn't put much effort into it. It was like, ho raha hai to ho raha hai, nahi ho raha hai to nahi ho raha. But in fourth semester, when it finally struck me that, what if some companies that come for placement in the coming semester, because they'll be only considering CGPA up till fourth semester.
Correct.
So what if they put a restriction of 8.5? I need to cross the limit, and that's where I think in that particular semester I got 9.4 SGPA, so that increased my CG overall.
Okay. So let's dive into your journey with projects first because interviews are mainly more focused on projects apart from the core subjects like you mentioned and DSA. So when did you start building projects and what is the importance of building through hackathons? Because a lot of people are kind of they don't go for the hackathons. They're kind of they're not sure about their abilities. They feel like we'll prep well, we'll build something, and then we'll maybe dive into the
Well, firstly,
hackathon. Yeah.
I'll say that hackathons are a great opportunity because you actually tend to put your best within those 24 hours to 36 and you build a project which has good features. It might not be very scalable at that particular time, but you can scale it up later. So I'll suggest everyone to participate in hackathons. I participated in one myself when I was in first year. We didn't know anything else except HTML, CSS, and JavaScript back then. And like ChatGPT was also not that advanced at that
Correct.
moment.
Correct. Correct.
Static website, but visually pleasing. We had a lot of ideas about features and all that we could pitch in. So our the people who had organized the hackathon, the ones who were evaluating us, they told us that we probably won't win it because we don't have proper tech stack used in it, but our features and our thinking was pretty good. So that gave us exposure to meet mentors as well. Similarly, in my second year, when we had a fully functional prototype, we had several rounds of hackathon there, and there were people from industries like few were vice president in TCS. They were there to mentor us and they loved our project so much that they gave us their personal contact and they have asked us to develop that project further for them. So I think hackathon is a very crucial thing. You can definitely do that. And about projects that one should be having on their resume is that you should not have projects related to similar tech stack over and over. No need to make your resume monotonous. Personally, talking about my resume at the end of second year, it had a project of DSA, which was in C. It had a project of MERN of Django, um, and one project that used Firebase and RAG. So right now, I think AI/ML has bloomed even more as compared to last year. So people should
Correct.
try to have those also in their resume.
Yeah. And how important would you say is keeping updated with what the current trends are? Because a lot of people they have, they're still stuck with those Netflix clones or to-do lists or those kind of projects that a lot of people still showcase. So what would your advice be regarding that? Like how should you take up, the latest trends? Like you mentioned, you had a project on RAG, and I think RAG last year it was new to something that was coming around.
Yeah.
So yeah, what would your advice be regarding that?
So, well, my first project was using HTML CSS was also an Amazon clone, but that is only limited to learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It is
Correct.
not something that you can actually showcase on your
Yeah.
resume.
Yeah.
So when you're building any project, ensure that it has some use in real life, because one, that the interviewers love innovation in whatever you're doing. And if you have more time, you can add few extra features, like you can make it scalable, have system design concepts like Kafka, Redis, etc. To it gives you an upper edge as compared to others. And also AI/ML, as I said, you can
Yeah.
use predictive engines to make it a more of a proactive than a reactive project. So all that
Okay.
can be done.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. So let's now dive into Deutsche Bank. So first, before we start, can you mention what the criteria was, if you remember, and what the rounds were? If you can just state the different rounds that were there.
So the criteria for the people who could apply was they should have 7 plus CGPA, and for COEP it was only limited to CS students, whereas for IITs and NITs they didn't have a branch restriction. Um, for Deutsche Bank, we have first had an online aptitude, but we had to give it from the college's campus,
Okay. Yeah.
and we got the result of the shortlisted candidates at like 11 p.m. and then the next day at 8 a.m. we had to be there for interviews.
Okay.
So we basically had 3 rounds of interviews, and the first round was the technical round. For me, my technical round, I was asked two DSA lead code easy level questions, along with a lot of DBMS queries, 4 to 5 DBMS queries. And then the funny story is that the guy who was interviewing me, he was from ML background. And like a year ago, I did not even mention ML on my resume, but he kept dwelling into the concepts of ML. So at that time, you have to create a rapport with the interviewer within those few minutes. So what I did was I gave real life examples of machine learning, the using common sense, and I answered him. So that's how I made it to the second level of interview. The second round was also a technical round, in which it was more of a resume driven. I was asked about my previous internships, my projects, and he asked me questions on DSA, basic questions on Q stack and graphs. He also asked standard sliding window problem from LeetCode. Also fundamental questions on DBMS and OS, questions like difference between memory management in C and Java, etc. So after that, in the third round was the HR round. This round was around 15 minutes long. Again, a very unexpected question that came: how to make tea. So I had to describe the process of making tea there. This
That's
was
something
basically
unique.
done. Yeah, it was basically done to test our English fluency. And apart from that, of course, we had the standard questions like what is your greatest strength? Have you ever faced a setback? And how did you overcome it? Etc. So for HR round is mainly where you need to back your answers by giving real life examples. And the best source of real life examples is when you have the experience through your co-curricular activities. That's why
Correct.
one should try to join clubs in colleges and also participate in hackathons.
Yeah. And the clubs part, I think it is very important for making your personality grow, because it's not like you're in school. In school, you are in that restricted sort of area. You have your classes,
Yeah.
you have your subjects. You're sort of restricted, right, up until you're in college. And if you're not exploring that in college, I don't think you're actually even doing anything, to be honest. Because if you're just studying for ACADS, I think you'll get hit when the internship season comes and everyone else is prepared and you're just trying to understand what you should be studying, and you can develop that, something that, like you mentioned, you were a part of a lot of clubs, and the learnings you took over there, the bonds you made, the seniors you interacted with, that really helped build your personality over the 2 years, right? And that is definitely something that the interviewers must also look into, right? Whether this person actually has
They
the
also
key.
looked
Yeah.
into my communication skills, my public speaking. When he asked me, how much would you rate your public speaking skills? So it might sound very overconfident now, but I did rate myself 9.5 out of 10. And at the end of the interview, I also asked him that how would you rate my public speaking skills? So he said that you lived up to what you said.
Yeah.
So
And based off of the podcast now, I think you can confidently say it's 10. So it's not even
thank you.
9.5 now. Yeah, so you can say
Yeah.
that. And it's very important to be confident as well, like backing yourself. Like you mentioned, some people might call it, being cocky or overconfident, that, or a lot of people undermine their own abilities, I think, in the HR round.
It is
Uh,
important to be confident, but again, not overconfident. Like, one should always remember the person who is interviewing you is at least as smart as you, if not smarter.
Smarter,
So,
correct.
you should try to avoid using technical terms that you are not confident about. And if you're supposedly asked a question that you are not sure about, you should be honest instead of guessing or faking it. Because, like in D Shaw, they took a kind of a technical rapid fire round for me. I mentioned using Django, so they went from that to MVT to ORM to SQL, and it was like I would throw a technical jargon, and they would question me about it. So it's important to not be overconfident as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do that to look cool. Like even with AI, like it's very, I think it must come up in now like all the most of the interviews where people don't have a lot of knowledge about it, but they randomly just use that term for the sake of using
Yeah.
that given jargon just so that it sounds good. Okay, so like you mentioned, the first round was your typical DSA round, right? Like apart from
Yes.
OA, yeah. Let's start with OA first. So your aptitude round, what was your prep strategy for that? Because a lot of people underestimate aptitude. So what were the resources you used?
Okay, so for DB, the Deutsche Bank, the OA had basically two sections. One was about the technical concepts, and the other one was the coding section.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, in the technical MCQs, we had MCQs based on OS scheduling algorithms, computer networks, subnetting, and DNS concepts. From DBMS, we had queries on Postgres query, and we had to figure out the output. There were questions on normalization as well. For DSA, we were given pseudocodes, and we had to find out the time complexities of it and basic concepts of OOPS they were asked. We were also given a code of HTML, CSS, and we had to select the correct output that would be produced if we ran that. And about the second section, that was the coding section, there were two questions. One was of 20 marks. It was lead code medium, you can say, and the other one was 50 marks, which was lead code hard. Both of them were based on graphs.
Okay.
So my suggestion for OA would be that you should try to pass maximum test cases. It's okay if a solution is not optimized because it's a timed test. It was a 90-minute test. So you
Correct.
might not be able to give the optimized solution, but you should try to give the maximum test cases. And like this again, the OA again depends company to company.
Correct.
So DShaw also had logical reasoning and quants questions in their
Yeah.
aptitude.
Yeah.
So you can prepare for OA from India Bix.
Okay.
And for like DShaw especially, they look at the code. Like when you're interviewing, you were selected
Yeah.
after the OA, right? So they
Yeah.
look at the way you have coded in your OA. So
That's a good
hard
point.
coding doesn't work there.
Yeah, it doesn't work when
Yeah.
there's someone in front of you. So talking about DSA, when did you start? Like you mentioned, you started in your second year, right? So what were the
Yeah.
topics that you feel are very important to at least master? So like overall, you can consider an entire COP's placement, right? There must have been a lot of
Yeah.
companies, a lot of your friends must have had different experiences. So what would those topics be?
So in OAs, you're generally asked on graphs and dynamic programming, two-dimensional arrays generally for dynamic programming. But when you're giving the interviews, at that time they ask knapsack problems as well. They ask one-dimensional dynamic programming as well. Sometimes they do ask backtracking questions. But mainly, you can say that greedy algorithm, sliding window, all these are common questions asked at least by banks.
Okay,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
arrays you should be well versed with that. Even linked list questions were asked to a few people from Hilti.
Okay, so that makes sense. So, like you mentioned, graphs and DP are something that appear a lot in the interviews, but the other topics you should have your basics clear as well, like sliding windows, arrays,
Yeah,
trees, and the other
yeah.
things that surround it. And I think all those topics are covered in the sheets that you mentioned. So, if you refer that and like you through with the logic, I think you'll be able to do well in the OA round. Talking about the core subjects, uh, how did you study? Like you mentioned, you watched the playlist, right? But did you like take notes or something? Or a lot of people, take these quizzes. There are a lot of quizzes on Geek for Geeks or things like that. So apart from
Yeah, so
watching the
like
videos, yeah, how did you study?
so the notes were provided by the Code Help YouTuber itself. So I referred
Okay,
to those notes. But apart from that, it was a placement specific series, right? So it
yeah,
did not have depth of each topic. So there is also interview bit you can refer to where there are questions in depth as well for a few topics. So that gives you a pretty much idea on how you have to prepare.
okay, that sounds good. And now let's dive to the technical interviews, like for Deutsche Bank and both for DShaw. So how did you prep for the technical interviews, particularly on how did you prepare explaining DSA? Because the way round is something that is totally different, like you mentioned, right? In the way round, you can hard code a bit, and it's okay if you don't get the optimal solution. But the technical round, when there's someone in front of you, it's a totally different ball game, right? So how did you practice that, and what can people do to be good at that, like explaining DSA?
So, firstly, you need to keep solving a lot of questions on any platform like LeetCode or other platforms as well. So, practice will actually train your mind to think in a particular way. And at times, they ask you to code on paper. I was asked to code on paper for DB, not for
Okay,
DShow. So for DShaw, what I did was I kept thinking aloud so that they know what my thought process is, because they also are not looking for the most optimal solution there. Even in the interview, they are trying to judge my problem solving ability again. So I'll say that you should always start with a brute force approach, even though you know that there's a better approach. Start with the brute force approach and then move towards the optimal one, and keep thinking aloud. It's
okay.
okay to be wrong. Like, interview is not like a college viva.
Yeah, college Viva it's something totally different, because in the college Viva a lot of times the external is just there to make fun of you sometimes. That is what my
Yeah.
personal experience is based off of some of the externals. But this is not, that's a very important distinction that you made. It's not a college Viva. So it's okay to fail. You should have that freedom to fail, because they're hiring a human. Like they're not hiring a robot that you can't be 100%
Yeah.
accurate anyways. How did you work on your communication skills, like you mentioned? Because a lot of people, they are very shy when they get into college. They have the conceptual clarity in their mind, but for some reason they're not able to express it, or to the interview in front of them, they're not able to articulate their thoughts, and that could be a reason why that candidate doesn't clear the interview round. So, any advice regarding that, and what you did to build up the skill?
Well, personally speaking, I have been someone who has been speaking a lot in public since childhood, so I did not face this particular issue. But I do know my few friends who did. So I got my placement in the first week of college, so I would help them out. I would take their demo interviews, so I would like help them build confidence, because when they are speaking to me, they they would be speaking aloud, so they know what they're speaking. And apart from that, if I felt if there was any scope for improvement, I would tell it to them and we would redo the interview.
Okay, so
So
that's
there
good.
are a few platforms for that as well. I'm not sure about the websites though. There are a few websites available online.
Okay, so taking demo interviews can definitely, I get that
Yeah.
fear out, because it's definitely good. And nowadays, I think you can even do that on ChatGPT. You can turn on the voice mode and tell it that take my
Yeah.
interview, and then it will be more than ready to give you feedback, in that sort of sense of things.
One thing here is that in every interview, the first question they ask is introduce yourself.
Yeah,
And you should have your introduction ready, and it should be in such a way that it's brief but it is a story like format, so that the interviewer also takes interest in you. And when you have already given your introduction confidently, you automatically gain some confidence in that conversation with the interviewer. So having a introduction ready could be a plus factor.
yeah, and I think it's good to gain momentum initially, because if you mess up in
Yeah.
the first 10 minutes, a lot of times your confidence it just stagnates and then it starts falling, and that's not the best way to start things off. Do you remember by chance what you mentioned in the introduction, just so that people could, get an idea of what sort of introduction is good? Because a lot of people aren't sure about what they should tell and what they should, exclude. So if you remember what you said, or you could give a demo, maybe if you by any chance recall
Yeah.
what you said.
So my introduction, I tried to cover most of my projects as well into the that. Like I was confident about my project called as Solace, and I wanted to highlight it so that my interviewer could ask me questions on that. Kind
Yeah,
of playing mind games with the interviewer here. So I'll just read it aloud. I'm reading it after a long while too. So
yeah,
I am Aastha Jajoo, a third year computer engineering student. I am passionate about building tech that solves real world problems, and I enjoy not just coding but also thinking deeply about the architecture and design of software systems. One of the projects I worked on is Solace, a mental health platform for students. The idea came from my own experiences, and to validate it, I conducted a survey among peers. Based on those insights, I designed the features. I consider myself a practical learner. For instance, while studying the assembly language of 8086 architecture in class, I became curious about how assembly really works, so I built one from scratch in C using hash tables and arrays. I have also worked across different tech stacks through internships at Elite Softwares and Brilio Kids, and also an in-house project of software development section of COEP, where I am currently the events and documentations leads. Besides SDS, I have also had several other chances to lead the team. As a team lead, I have won a hackathon as well. I am fond of learning through interactions, and being web coordinator at Pune Startup Fest was an opportunity to learn on how large scale events are handled behind the stage. Another fun interactive learning I had when I volunteered at a Ray of Hope, a charitable trust, and taught students from classes 5th to 10th. I hope to learn and grow with your firm. So this is a whole one which I had written down, but not necessarily that I spoke it all out like that. I
yeah.
shortened while speaking there, but mainly what I'm trying to convey is that I have mentioned about my social internship, about the two clubs that I am a part of, about my two projects, one about the 8086 assembly one and another about the Solace. So I tried to make everything in my introduction.
Yeah, and that was a very, first of all, a very good introduction. It covered everything, and like you saw, like Asta could have gone like, I'm Asta Jajoo, I'm a third year student, I built this project, I built that, I did my internship over here, blah blah blah, and you can see the difference, right? If she went like that, what would the interviewer would have no like information about her, right? Because the interviewer has a lot of people to interview, right? And all of them will just have a different name and maybe different projects, but you wouldn't be able to stand out, right? And looking at Asa's description, like first she mentioned what she is, what she likes to build, and you can see like it's like a story. Like she started off with her introduction, then slowly dived into her project, and most importantly, she mentioned why she built that project and a bit of details about her projects, and then she also cleverly mentioned the internships that she was a part of, the teaching experience that she had, and the clubs that she was a part of. So it's very important, like she mentioned, to have that proper storyline. And if you give such a good storyline, the interviewer must have a good impression about it, and he'll at least be clear in his mind about the candidate, what he has done, what he can bring to the company. And it's always good to start off on such a positive note. So that was pretty good to hear, and I think a lot of people can learn from this. How was your experience with Deutsche Bank? Now that we've gone through the entire journey, so how was that experience, and what are your tips for folks that are they have gotten the internship? How can they convert that to a PPO? Because that is also something that is in the back of your mind when you are doing an internship at a good company.
Yeah. So my experience at Deutsche Bank was really good. I got to work on machine learning there again. And I was also a part of the project that was not only selected for a huge event called as Bank on Tech, which is held inside Deutsche Bank, and also a part of Innovation World Cup, again another global level event conducted at Deutsche Bank. So my work was pretty good. My team was also very good. I was the youngest one in my team. People they were twice my age. So sometimes the conversations would be a little different from the ones which you have with your
In
friends
college, yeah,
generally.
yeah.
Yeah. So In corporate, I'll say that the more than the work you do, because when you go there, and as I said, the people were twice my age, they looked at me like a kid. So more than the work you do is the attitude you portray. There were few issues about the project I was working on due to, because it's a bank and it has a lot of compliance, and that
Correct.
takes a
Compliance.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's difficult to do everything in 8 weeks. But again, my buddy, like they had assigned me a buddy, a mentor, and a manager. So my buddy was pretty much impressed with my keenness to work on anything. I would ask him for any sort of work. Sometimes the work would not even, I would think, कि, यार ये क्या काम दे दिया? But it's always good to take it from a positive attitude, because again, you're the youngest one out there. You're just an intern for them.
Correct. And it must be overwhelming, to like at least on the first day when like in college it's like everyone's your age, everyone has a similar result, everyone has done similar amount of study, but when you go into a big company it must be overwhelming. And like double it is, that is also something that is important, that like you mentioned, so that people get an understanding about that. And I think that is why internships are also very important, because if like people like you're interacting with such people, you can definitely learn a lot from their experiences, and not commit the same mistakes that they did. How did you like get back from the D Shaw setback? Because like you mentioned, you got through all the rounds and you were just you couldn't clear the final round due to some reasons, due to what they needed or the number of people
Well,
they needed to hire. Yeah.
I'll be very honest. I never thought that I would make it till the last round of D Shaw. There are a lot of smart people out there in my college as well. So again, I'll say that, yeah, as you had mentioned, that one has to be confident. I wish I had the confidence in me. So because I was not that prepared for a systems role, I was not well versed with system design at that particular point of time. So that was one of the reasons why I didn't make it. And also other reason was, like, other people along with me, they were asked questions on their projects as well, the ones they had mentioned in their resume.
Yeah.
But the interviewers, interviews are 50% about luck and 50% about your skill.
Correct. Correct.
So
That
my
is.
luck, they didn't ask me anything about my projects, nothing from my resume. They asked me all scenario based questions, what I would do. Like, for example, if I have to take backup of a database of of the college, what things would I do? And it was like, if I mentioned one thing, they would keep saying and so they forced me to think, and that's why I thought aloud. And yeah, I'll just say that I was not well versed with system design at that point, so I learned it right now.
Yeah, so that's an important learning, and the good thing is that you actually understood your mistake, rather than complaining about. You could have like complained, right? If you're someone else, you could have complained that why was I only asked these weird type of questions? Why didn't they ask anything about the
Right.
projects? But it's better to it's the faster you move on, it's better, because a lot of successful people say that it's bet the faster you fail, the closer you are to success. So it's important to fail fast, so don't be shy of failing fast, given the fact that you learn from the mistake, like Asta had mentioned. Okay, so now we're going to do the rapid fire. So I'm going to ask you a question, whatever comes on top of your mind. Feel free to answer accordingly. So to start things off, one word to describe your COEP life so far.
um, Roller coaster.
Okay. One subject you wish you had studied harder.
DSA.
What was the first thing that you checked when you were researching for the companies that come to your college?
About the work life balance and also the pay.
Okay. What do you prefer? Do you prefer being part of a group or leading the group?
Leading the group.
One skill that every fresher should have.
Networking and communication.
Okay. Toughest interview question you've ever been asked, or an interview question that maybe caught you off guard?
As I said, in D Shaw round, I was asked about system design, and at that time I didn't know. So it was about the rate limiter at that.
Yeah. If you weren't an engineer, what do you think you would be?
Probably a lawyer. I like to argue.
Yeah, that sounds good. What was the best memory that you had at Deutsche Bank?
So we were we were a part of Bank on Tech, and there in Ritz Carlton we were there to set up a stall, and I had to pitch my project to others and also listen to others, and it was like pretty good because again it's Ritz Carlton. So
Yeah.
that.
What is the biggest mistake you feel you made and juniors should not make?
Um, I'll just say that juniors should always start early in any regard, and whatever their goal is for everything, they should start early.
Yeah. One line advice that you would give yourself or someone 3 or 4 years back, like in your first year.
Mm. Balance academics as well as co-curriculars
Yeah, and
equally.
to end things off, looking back at your beautiful journey so far, do you feel like satisfied, or would a younger self of yours be satisfied with such a journey?
Like if you ask me 1 year ago, 17 July 2025, when I did not even have internship from Deutsche Bank, I would be very happy. My younger self would be very happy with what I have now. But being a human, there's always greed for more. So now
Correct,
since I
correct.
have one offer, I would like to have more.
Yeah, that makes sense. So thank you so much, Astha. We covered everything. It was a pleasure having you. It was great to learn about your journey. Just as we end the podcast, is there some final message you'd like to give the audience?
Just believe in the process, enjoy the process. As I've said this earlier, it's 50% luck, 50% skill. So keep working hard. Do not get disheartened if things don't go the way you want them to.
Yeah. So once again, thank you so much. It was a great podcast, and hopefully people can learn from this podcast. And guys, you can feel free to DM Astha, or DM me if you have any doubts regarding placements, or you can even mention it in the comment section. We'll get that answered if that is the case, and I'll attach all the links so you can refer to
I
whatever
can
links
share my
Astha.
LinkedIn account as well.
Yeah.
You can attach the link to my LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can reach out in case the comment is not answered. You can directly reach out, so no worries regarding that.